guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Brittany from She Run the World Travel Blog, and I just got back from 5 months in South America traveling and working as a digital nomad. For those of you who know my story, know that I've pretty much been living and traveling outside of the US since 2018. And every time I come back, I just get reverse culture shock. So I thought now that I'm back for a few months, it would be fun to put together a video showing all the cultural differences between the US and the rest of the world. Let me put in a disclaimer that yes, of course, there will be certain countries that are exceptions to the points that I'm gonna be talking about. I'm making very general statements, and it's really impossible to have them be true for all other 196 countries around the world. But since I've traveled to nearly 50 countries on 6 continents, I can truly say that for the most part, these differences from the US stand true for most other countries. So let's go ahead and dive in. First, we have the fact that building floors are numbered differently. So, in the US, we always have the ground floor as level 1, and then the next flight up is 2, 3, and obviously we continue from there. But nearly all other countries in the world have a ground floor, and then when you go up a flight of stairs, that's level 1. Then you go level 2, level 3, up from there. So if you see an address that says it's on the 3rd level, you'll actually have to go up 4 flights of stairs to get there. The next is the US gym culture. So I will say that, back in 2016, which was the first time for me living abroad, I was studying abroad in Barcelona, and it took me forever to find a gym. I just think it wasn't as popular, but now fast forward 7 years, I will say that most of the places that I've been do have a lot of gyms on every corner, so there definitely has been a shift and this is changing. But in general, the US by far has the most gyms and people who go to the gym compared to other countries in the world. And honestly, I really think the main difference for this is that the US, we don't really have fitness ingrained in our everyday society, whereas in a lot of other countries, fitness is woven into their everyday life. They walk and or ride their bike everywhere. Their food is way better for them. They have parks everywhere to play sports or just do active things. And I just feel like since we don't have that here in the US, we have to go to the gym to try to stay fit and healthy. This next one is kind of associated with the last point, and that's athleisure. In the US, it is 100% socially acceptable to wear gym clothes out and about, run your errands in them, grab food, hang out with friends, whatever you want. This is actually one of the things that when I did a shorter version of this video on my TikTok, so many people commented saying, I was wrong because athleisure is socially acceptable in Australia and New Zealand. So we'll go ahead and exclude Australia and New Zealand on this point, but it is really, really true that in most other countries, it absolutely is not socially acceptable to wear gym clothes out and about. You're expected to go to the gym, then go home, shower, change into regular clothes before heading back out. Next up, we have driving everywhere versus taking public transportation. So unless you live in New York City, maybe even Chicago, I don't know, I've never been there, but you're mostly driving everywhere you go in the United States. Public transportation isn't very widely used within the city, the state, or even to go cross country. So it really is necessary to have your own car in the US. And while this is true in the countrysides and rural areas of all other countries, nearly all other big cities in the world are very well connected through public transportation. And that's what the locals predominantly use. And then obviously when I'm traveling there, that's what I'm using too, to just get around within the city. But even to travel to different cities or cross borders into different countries, there are great bus and train systems in place. Like I said earlier in this video, I've traveled to so many countries across the globe, and I've only ever rented a car one time. That was for a national park road trip through Montenegro, and I really, really needed a car. But other than that, I've done all my travels by relying on public transportation to get me to different places within a country and even to other countries. All right, now we have bulk grocery shopping, which is a huge difference. It's no secret that in America, we think bigger is better. We have massive houses, massive appliances in our houses, massive cars. And this stands true for the way that we grocery shop. We love, love, love to bulk grocery shop at places like Costco and Sam's Club, and it's completely socially acceptable for one person to be walking around with 1 or 2 full carts while you're shopping in these places. But in nearly all other places in the world, bulk grocery shopping is just not even a thing. They really prefer doing daily shopping, you know, getting the fresh meat, fresh veggies to cook that night, maybe even a few other staples that'll last you a few more days. And I've noticed, like, especially like in the heart of the city, most grocery stores don't even have grocery carts. Like, they just have little baskets because people don't need a big cart. So when I was shopping abroad and I buy like 15 items, I feel like people are judging me, like, why is she buying so much stuff? And I feel like that's not a lot of stuff. So that's a huge culture shock for me, especially when I first moved abroad to China. And to kind of piggyback off of that last point, we also have so many one-stop shops. So, you know, in America, we love these one-stop shops. Walmart, Target, I'd even maybe consider Sam's Club and Costco to kind of be a one-stop shop because you can get multiple things there. I mean, we love convenience, right? We hate to waste time, so we want to get everything at the same store. Fresh produce, other groceries, clothes, toiletries, home items, electronics, whatever it may be. But this isn't the case in so many places around the world. I will say, like, more so in recent years, I have spotted a lot more hypermarkets popping up abroad, but in general, I really don't think it's as common as having individual shops for each individual thing. Fruits and veggies store, electronics store, a pharmacy that has your toiletries, sports equipment store, and all those types of things. I remember when I first moved to Prague, all I wanted was a yoga mat. I really wanted a yoga mat, and you wouldn't believe how difficult it was for me to find this yoga mat. And honestly, it was just because I didn't know what store carried a yoga mat. Like, I tried going to some of the hypermarkets and they didn't have any like sports equipment. And then finally I found a sports equipment store, went all the way over there, and then I get in there and it was specifically tennis and biking equipment, nothing else. So I was just losing my mind trying to find what store actually sold what I wanted to buy. And then to take this even a step further, we can talk about Amazon, which is definitely a one-stop shop that Americans are addicted to and does not exist in a lot of places around the world. Yes, you know, they might have their own version of online shopping, and Amazon does exist in a few other countries, but in general, online shopping just isn't as popular in most other countries, and same day or next day delivery is just absolutely unheard of. Next, we have trash and recycling, which is definitely not the same everywhere in the US, but generally speaking, as a country, I'd say a lot of people don't recycle in their homes. And then if you're walking on the street or you're in public places, there's not a lot of separate bins for trash and recycling. A lot more apartment buildings recently have had separate bins, you know, in your house, and then you go down and you put them in the big bins that are cardboard, plastic, glass bottles, and then your trash. So that's really awesome to see. Definitely a great step in the right direction, but in a lot of places around the world, everyone already does this in their homes and apartments, and the trash bins that are on the street, whether it's a small one or a big one, usually already has the different recycling options for paper, glass, plastic, and then, you know, the trash by itself. Next up, we have business hours. A lot of restaurants and shops in America are open all day, every day, even weekends, right? Capitalism. But in a lot of other places, restaurants and shops aren't open as much. They'll close in the afternoon between lunch and dinner. Usually Sundays, a majority of the shops are closed too. You know, even coffee shops, which as Americans we're used to Starbucks opening what, like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. Some coffee shops don't even open till 8, 9, 10 a.m. in other places. So it's always best to check their business hours and not just assume that they're gonna be open like I always do in the States. I never check people's business hours. I just, oh, they're gonna be open. Can't really do that abroad. Now, I mentioned this point briefly before, but a big cultural difference I've noticed when traveling is the huge cars in America. Like, of course, in other countries you have work trucks or vans for businesses, but in America, so many people drive huge pickup trucks, huge SUVs, and even the crossover SUVs, you know, they're bigger than a normal car. Whereas everywhere else, the majority of people drive something equivalent to a sedan or even like a tiny hatchback, but definitely way more smaller cars on the road. So it's just crazy to come back here and I'm just driving on the freeway and all I see are just massive vehicles. Next up is the food quality. So, you know, it's no secret that in America, we have relatively unhealthy food because, you know, the US has lower food safety regulations, so the food is just filled with preservatives. And, you know, if you grow up in America, that's all you've ever eaten, right? Like, we don't know any different, so you're just used to that poor quality of food. But I will honestly say that it's one of the first things that I really noticed when I left the US for the first time to live in China, and I genuinely felt less bloated and lethargic after I ate. And I started doing research like, why do I feel better? because of our food. You know, other countries just have much higher food safety regulations, so their foods are more natural. They don't have as many preservatives. And now that I've been abroad for so long, my body is actually used to that higher quality of food. So every time I come back, I go through this period of just like, feeling so lethargic, so bloated, and just gross, whether I'm eating at a restaurant or even groceries and cooking at home. So the next few points aren't really like cultural differences, they're more like logistical differences, but they make traveling and living abroad so difficult as an American. So first up, we have the obvious, the fact that everywhere else in the world uses the metric system, and we don't, for whatever reason we decide we don't want to do that, but it just makes our life so much harder as Americans because everything is in kilometers, meters, grams, kilograms. The list goes on and on. So I'm constantly on the converter app on my phone to convert kilometers into miles or kilograms into pounds for my brain to just comprehend how close or far I am to something or how much something weighs. Like, I genuinely can't comprehend it until I put it into miles or pounds, which is just so annoying. And you know, this is the same thing for temperature. Everywhere else in the world uses Celsius and we use Fahrenheit in America. So I genuinely don't understand why we do this or the metric system. It just, again, it just makes everything so difficult because I'm constantly converting the temperature into Celsius so I can know what the weather's gonna be like that day or even like for the rest of the week. And then next up, we have the usage of the 24-hour clock or military time, as we say here in America. Pretty much everywhere else in the world uses the 24-hour clock, which in my opinion makes things so much easier because you don't have to worry about AM or PM. Everyone just knows what you're talking about. But in America, we think of that as only being used by the military. I remember when I studied abroad in Barcelona and I was planning on trying out for the university's rugby team. The tryouts were at 13:30 according to the flyer that I was looking at, and I showed up to the field at 3:30 p.m. I honestly have no idea what I was thinking. I was just confused. I sat there for like 30 minutes before I'm like, let me take a look at this flyer again, thinking, you know, this is the wrong date that I went there. And no, apparently my brain just couldn't comprehend what 13:30 meant. Made me learn the 24-hour clock real quick though. Like, now I got it down to a T, but in the beginning I was just so confused by it. I don't get why we don't do it either. Next is how we write the date. So in America, we write the date month, day, year, but everywhere else does day, month, year. So that's something else that has also caused some confusion for me in the past, like especially with certain appointments or things, dates that I need to remember. I remember when I made a hair appointment in Vietnam and it was in March. They texted me saying that the appointment was confirmed for 5/3/2021. And I was thinking, dang, okay, they don't have availability for 2 whole months. I have to wait until May, like, but okay, you know, whatever. Then a few days later on March 5th, they texted me asking where I was. And I was like, wait, I thought the appointment was on May 3rd. So I hopped on my motorbike, got over there as fast as I possibly could. And yeah, never made that mistake again. I'd always confirmed in full writing, May 5th, 2023 or whatever it was, like, yes, okay, cool. And lastly, this one isn't specific to America versus the world, but just like the different plugs in the voltage. So not very many countries in the world share the same plugs as America. So you need to make sure that you have both an adapter and converter when you're traveling abroad, so your electrical items will fit into the wall, so the voltage is converted and you won't blow a fuse wherever you're at. So there you have it. There's my cultural differences between America and the rest of the world. Like I said in the beginning of this video, it's impossible that all 196 other countries are gonna fit into the descriptions that I just gave about being different from America. You know, I'm totally sure that some places have some of those similarities, but overall, as a general blanket statement from all my travels, these are things that I've definitely noticed as American that are different in other countries compared to the US. Culture shocks, if you will. If you have any other culture shocks or differences from a place you went to or you're living abroad that's very, very different from America, throw them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Those are my favorite videos to watch because I love looking at the differences between America and all these other places. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe as I continue my digital nomad journey around the world. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.